Electability. We hear about it from the pundits all the time. The news anchors talk about it. The campaigns talk about it. But do the people really think about that this early? I've spoken with all the old hands at this thing, and they tell me that it's never really been a factor in New Hampshire, electability over the incumbent president. But this year, it appears at least that maybe it is. But how big of a factor? Is it a top priority? Joining us now from Washington, the former Republican National Committee Chairman, Jim Gilmore. Jim, good to see you. Thank you.
Thanks, Shepard.
You know, I've been going around to these rallies and went to some polling places this morning, and some people say they still haven't made up their mind, and the vast majority who say they haven't made up their mind say one phrase to me. Do you know what it is?
What, electability?
Anybody but Bush. Well, there is something like that that's out here that a lot of people say repeatedly. I don't know if they say it because they've been conditioned to say it or because there's some certain thing that has them off their rockers angry. Have you guys been able to identify it?
Well, just remember, you're really dealing here with the Democratic primary. So this is the Democratic rank and file coming out, and of course they want to win the White House for all the reasons that you would expect a party to want to claim the White House. But I think the strength that the president has is that he's leading decisively, and that's going to make a difference in the rank and file voters across the United States of America who are not necessarily just Democratic Party activists who are participating so strongly in the Democratic primary.
All right, electability. As we look across the board in this spectrum here, which ones do you think have the best chances of electability? And why we're asking this of a Republican, I don't really know, but go ahead.
Well, well, you know, I'll try to be as as square as I can be. The fact is that that I think Dean, by his self-destruction and his converting his rolled up the sleeves kind of image into something that's kind of pugnacious, kind of combative, I think hurt himself. And when he did, Kerry and Edwards sort of rose up almost by default. At the end of the day, electability is going to turn on who has the vision for the people of the United States. And at the end of the day, the Democratic frontrunners, leaders, Kerry and Edwards even, they're not in favor of tax cuts for working men and women across the country. They're not kinds of people that are strong on the Iraqi issue by and large. And I don't think that they really understand the place of the United States in the world and the place of the people in the United States. And that's going to be a problem for them as they go up the road further, and then electability will take a different cast when people start talking about issues.
Is it your sense that the person who is most different from President Bush and has the most different stance on issues from President Bush is more electable, or the one who has centered and comes closer to the middle?
Well, it's two different ways of looking at it. The Dean, I actually thought Dean was going to be the nominee, and who knows, he may yet be. But he was not electable unless the feeling of the people of the United States dramatically turned. Only then would a Dean ever have a chance of beating the incumbent president of the United States. Now, with Kerry, you're looking at somebody who they think has more weight and more gravity, but at the end of the day, he's a Massachusetts liberal senator, and he's going to have to try to find some way to sell that across the Midwest and the South.
Well, he says he doesn't.
Rocky Mountain State.
Said Senator Kerry says absolutely he doesn't. Senator Kerry is quoted as saying that he doesn't need a single southern state to win the presidency and that it's been proved. But I wonder, and help me out here, if he doesn't team up with somebody like Edwards or somebody like Gephardt or somebody from down south, if that won't help him dramatically as it did with the Kennedy.
A president of the United States has to be in a position to represent the entire United States of America. And that means that he has to be able to appeal to all regions of the country appropriately. To write off the South is folly for the Democrats, and there's no history that says that that's a good strategy. So that's why I think Kerry's going to have a problem. If he's at the head of the ticket, he's going to have to lead that ticket. And as for Edwards, I think he still has to show that he can carry a single solitary state in the South for the Democratic ticket. I don't think it's been demonstrated yet.
Polls show he's strong in South Carolina, that he's actually winning in South Carolina. I wonder about the New Hampshire bounce and what happens. For instance, if Senator Edwards comes in third, as he now is in the polls, or maybe even fourth, if his limp into South Carolina doesn't become more difficult post-New Hampshire.
It could very well. You see, and you're playing the expectation games. Now, Kerry is expected to win.
Too, isn't it?
Very much. Kerry is expected to win decisively now in New Hampshire. What if Howard Dean comes up a little bit? What if John Edwards rolls into South Carolina? And by the way, it is not the general election in South Carolina. It's only the Democratic primary in South Carolina. He rolls in there. Maybe he doesn't do quite so well as a Southerner. Then his credibility as a Southern candidate begins to erode. So there's still a lot of expectations games going on here, and you got to cut through all that. At the end of the day, It's who can actually articulate a true vision for the people of the United States nationwide, representing all the regions of this country. And I think that's George W. Bush.
And as they would say on Around the Horn on ESPN, buy or sell. We'll see what they do. Jim Gilmore, great to see you. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Shepard.
Coming up from B, a record turnout expected in New Hampshire. So, should we expect the unexpected? Our political roundtable will contradict and entertain coming up.